In a world where landscapes often feel familiar, there are still places that remain almost untouched by expectation, raw, ancient, and quietly extraordinary. A land where time stretches deeper than memory and where every horizon reveals something entirely unexpected. In the Horn of Africa lies Ethiopia, a country shaped by extremes and defined by depth. From highland plateaus rising above the clouds to one of the lowest and hottest places on Earth, this is a geography of contrast, where nature constantly shifts between abundance and harshness. Here, history runs just as deep. Ethiopia is one of the oldest nations in the world, with roots tracing back to ancient civilizations and kingdoms that once connected Africa to the Middle East and beyond. It is also a place of profound cultural identity, home to unique traditions, languages, and a heritage that has remained remarkably distinct through centuries of change. Yet beyond its history and scale lies something less seen: hidden valleys, volcanic landscapes, and remote regions that feel almost otherworldly. Places where the Earth reveals its most dramatic forms and where human presence blends seamlessly with the environment, a land of origin, contrast, and enduring mystery. In a land where the origins of humanity trace back millions of years, history is not something distant. It is embedded in the ground beneath every step. A place where cultures have endured, adapted, and evolved in remarkable isolation, shaped by landscapes as dramatic as the stories they hold. In East Africa lies Ethiopia, a country defined by its unique geography and deep historical roots. Highland plateaus rise above 2,000 meters, cut by deep valleys and fed by rivers that sustain life across vast regions, while the Great Rift Valley slices through the land, revealing volcanic formations in some of the most extreme environments on Earth. Historically, Ethiopia stands apart as one of the few African nations never fully colonized, allowing its traditions and identity to remain largely intact. Ancient kingdoms such as Aksum once thrived here, connecting trade routes between Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, while leaving behind monuments and cultural legacies that still shape the nation today. Culturally, this diversity is reflected in over 80 ethnic groups, each with its own language, customs, and traditions. From highland farming communities to pastoral societies in remote regions, religion, ritual, and daily life are deeply intertwined, creating a cultural landscape as rich as its geography. Where highlands open into calm horizons and rivers begin journeys that shape entire civilizations, there exists a body of water that feels both quiet and powerful. A place where movement is subtle, yet its influence stretches far beyond what the eye can see. In northwestern Ethiopia lies Lake Tana, the largest lake in the country and the primary source of the Blue Nile. Surrounded by rolling hills and scattered islands, this vast freshwater expanse plays a vital role in both the geography and history of the region. But beyond its scale lies something more hidden. Across its islands stand ancient monasteries, some dating back to the 14th century, sheltering centuries-old manuscripts and religious art protected in quiet isolation. Reaching them often requires crossing still waters by boat, where the journey itself becomes part of the experience. Here, time feels suspended. The lake reflects shifting skies while life moves at a slower, more deliberate pace, guided by nature rather than urgency. In a land often defined by rugged landscapes and ancient traditions, there rises a city that feels unexpectedly regal, where stone walls and towering structures echo the presence of kings. A place where power was not only held but displayed through architecture that still stands centuries later. Northern Ethiopia lies Gondar, once the imperial capital of the Ethiopian Empire. At its heart stands Fasıl Gebi, a remarkable collection of castles and palaces built in the 17th century under Emperor Fasilides. Here, stone structures rise with a style unlike anything else in Africa, blending Ethiopian, Portuguese, and Indian influences into a unique architectural identity. Towers, arched windows, and fortified walls create a setting that feels closer to a medieval fortress city than a typical African landscape. But beyond its grandeur, Gondar reveals a quieter depth. Within these walls, history lingers in silence, echoing ceremonies, royal life, and a time when this city stood at the center of power and culture. Far from modern cities and familiar rhythms, there exists a valley where time moves differently, not forward in a straight line, but layered through generations of tradition and identity. In a world rapidly changing, this is where culture remains deeply rooted, shaped by land, river, and survival. In southwestern Ethiopia lies the Omo Valley, a remote region carved by the Omo River, known for its extraordinary cultural diversity. Within this landscape live dozens of indigenous communities, each preserving distinct languages, rituals, and ways of life that have remained largely unchanged for centuries. Here, culture is visible in every detail: body painting, jewelry, and ceremonial traditions that reflect identity, belief, and social structure. From the Mursi to the Hamar, every group carries its own story expressed through practices that connect directly to the land and environment around them. But beyond its cultural richness, the Omo Valley is also a place of transition. External influences and modern pressures are beginning to reach even these remote areas, creating a delicate balance between preservation and change. There are places on Earth where the landscape feels almost impossible, where heat, minerals, and volcanic forces combine to create something that looks more like another planet than our own. In a world of familiar horizons, this is where nature breaks every expectation. In northeastern Ethiopia lies the Danakil Depression, one of the hottest and lowest places on Earth, stretching deep below sea level within the Afar Triangle. Here, temperatures regularly soar above 45 degrees Celsius, while the ground itself seems alive with color and motion. Sulfur springs bubble in neon yellows and greens, acid pools release rising vapors, and salt flats extend endlessly under a relentless sun. At the heart of this extreme environment stands Dalol, a hydrothermal field where mineral deposits create surreal formations that shift and change over time, forming patterns that feel almost unreal. Despite its harshness, life persists in unexpected ways. Microorganisms adapting to extreme conditions, offering scientists rare insights into the limits of life on Earth. At the crossroads of tradition and transformation, where history meets the rhythm of a rapidly changing world, a different kind of landscape begins to emerge. Not carved by erosion or time alone, but shaped by movement, identity, and the pulse of a nation. In the highlands of Ethiopia lies Addis Ababa, the political and cultural heart of the country. Perched at over 2,300 meters above sea level, it is one of Africa's highest capitals, a city where cool mountain air contrasts with the energy of constant growth. Here, modern life unfolds alongside deep-rooted traditions. Bustling markets, expanding skylines, and cultural institutions reflect a nation in motion, while museums and historic sites preserve stories that trace back to the very origins of humanity. It is also home to the headquarters of the African Union, positioning the city as a center of diplomacy and continental dialogue. Yet beyond its role and scale, Addis Ababa offers something more human, a rhythm shaped by daily life where past and present exist side by side in quiet balance. High in the Ethiopian highlands, where mountains rise through mist and time feels suspended, there exists a place carved not above the ground, but deep within it. A landscape where faith and stone merge into something both monumental and hidden from view. above, they are almost invisible. But descend into the earth, and an entire world reveals itself. Massive monolithic churches connected by narrow tunnels and passageways, each shaped with precision and devotion. The most iconic, Beta Georgis, stands in the form of a cross, its symmetry and scale reflecting both architectural brilliance and spiritual intention. Even today, these spaces remain active places of worship, where rituals continue much as they have for centuries, adding a living dimension to an already extraordinary setting. From highland churches carved into stone to landscapes that feel almost beyond Earth, this journey has revealed a land defined by origin, extremes, and enduring identity. Places where nature and culture do not exist separately but are deeply intertwined through time. Beyond what is seen on the surface lies something more: hidden valleys, ancient traditions, and environments that challenge both life and imagination. A world where history is not only remembered but continuously lived. These are not just destinations. They are living expressions of resilience, adaptation, and discovery. And like all hidden wonders, there is always more waiting beyond the horizon. Hidden wonders.